Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Movie Screeners Club podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Falk. The Movie Screeners Club is brought to you by Designing Hollywood Productions in association with Gardena Cinema. If you want to win the chance to have your short film screened in a huge cinema and the opportunity to be interviewed on our podcast, please submit your short film today to moviescreenersclub@gmail.com.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much again for having me on and allowing me the opportunity to showcase the film and myself as a filmmaker. This is only my second film, so I've only done 2 films, so I'm brand spanking new. And so far, the film community has been nothing but supportive, which blows me away because I come from a musical background. So I've been a musician for 20 plus years in a heavy metal band called Madrost, and I went over into the filmmaking world. It's primarily music related films so far. So I'm just kind of getting my feet wet into, again, learning how to hold a camera, from making sure the audio is good, the very, very basics, I guess, to making a film. I didn't know any of that. I've never been to film school. I've just picked up a camera and just started shooting, and then let's just see what happens. So that's kind of the filmmaking techniques, if you want to call it that I am capable of doing. I'm sure one day I'll go to film school to learn some more techniques that'll help this particular field for me. But yeah, I started this just within the last year or two, and I've so far have made 3 films. But primarily focused on the Legacy of Cideshow Studios here. I approached Sherman Jones, who actually owns Cideshow Studios, about doing another film that I had been working on. Basically about the last 20 years of LA heavy metal, because it's never been documented before, and it's kind of a huge task because it's documenting 20 years of all different kinds of bands and the different aspects like record labels and record shops and the rehearsal space. I wanted it to be included. But as I was going into Sideshow Studios, there's a whole sense of culture that I didn't even know existed in this place. And I basically gave Sherman a call after doing our interview saying, hey, I want to run something by you. Would you be interested in doing a film just based on Sideshow Studios? There's a lot here to unpack. And like I said, as I'm discovering the community and the cultural aspect of this, that doesn't exist a heck of a lot. So when you find it, I saw kind of a story here and wanted to document it, and solidify the history of a rehearsal space and how important is a rehearsal space for bands. How important is just the very basics, the fundamentals of being in a band, and then this place had the history. And again, I wanted to answer the question of how important rehearsing is for bands. So I hope I did that. And it seems like a lot of people are liking it, and thanks again, seriously, for selecting it and having it be a part of this tremendous festival. So,
Of course. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're super passionate about music and about filmmaking, and you're so brand new. Did you find that there were any kind of like learning curves? Or did you kind of like jump in head first and you were like, I know exactly what I want to shoot. I know exactly what I want to do.
well, the learning curve for me would be how do I not have shaky camera work? that was basically kind of what I'm still working on and working towards. So I think the technique aspect, I think, would be hugely beneficial to making sure that I'm doing better and better films as I progress in this business. And I think, I don't know, I wouldn't say that I have a keen eye for shots and whatnot. I'm still learning that. I've been watching other people's films and trying to emulate it. And these are, I mean, I'm really into like 1950s B-movie sci-fi films. I'm talking Ed Wood status, where everyone else thinks they're
Right.
not very good, but I think they're masterpieces.
Mhm.
And just the fact that somebody did this, I'm going,
Right.
wow, if this person can do this,
Mhm.
I can do this. And I think that's very influential for somebody like me. That's like, because it seems like it's kind of a long, like a huge task to undertake,
Right.
right? And with filmmaking, I didn't really find it to be that bad of a field to work in. I think the scheduling would be the other just key component is as long as people show up, I can have it ready to rock and roll. And as long as the audio is good, the camera work is good, then we got a film that we could potentially work on. So
Right. Do you have any like influences from, for a filmmaking? You're brand new to filmmaking. Like, is there anyone that you want to kind of emulate? And this is a documentary, The Legacy of Sideshow Studios. It's a mouthful. Do you want to do more narrative work in the future?
well, so again, for me personally, I was very influenced, and it's probably going to date myself just a little bit, but I was always influenced by like people like Huell Hauser that
Mhm.
just went out into the world and just shot a bunch of stuff
Right.
and put something cool together. The finding out that there's a story as you're putting the film together. I think that's very exciting for
Mhm.
me. I would love to do more feature films. I've never done one of those, so eventually I would love to do more of those styles. But yeah, there's guys like a local filmmaker here, Bob Nalbandian, who is sadly no longer with us. Leah Scott Price. These are all independent filmmakers who just went out and did it, and I think that's very inspiring. Again, just like Ed Wood or Roger Corman, like people like that, I find very inspiring.
Right.
And I would love to just explore all facets of filmmaking in general. I don't want to just do documentary style films, even though they're really fun.
Hmm.
But I want to kind of ask you a little bit on this because I'm so new to it, but there always seems to be this stigma of like, oh, you're just a documentarian kind of thing. Like that's not
Hmm.
real filmmaking. I don't know if that's the case, but to me, it's all important to filmmaking in general.
I recently took a step in the documentarian direction for my first time ever. I went out on a road trip with a couple of friends, and we decided we wanted to document small towns and small communities in California in order to kind of, gain experiences and learn more, and also see if we could do it, see if it would work. Because we'd love to go cross country and see small towns and small communities in like flyover states and kind of learn, meet people there. So we shot everything, and right now we're in the editing process. And it really is, you come up with the story in the edit. We are watching all of our footage back, and we're thinking, this is like, how are we going to piece together? So we're finally kind of like starting to piece things together and be able to use some of our funny bits and some of our more like wholesome interviews, and kind of put them together and create something that's more cohesive. But it really is, I mean, I can't imagine why anyone would ever say that documentaries are less of a movie or are less challenging. I think they're more challenging because you literally go into it with an idea of what the story is going to be, and then you watch all the footage back and you think that that's not the story. It can't be the story, it doesn't work. And so I think that there is a lot of skill when it comes to creating a documentary, and more specifically creating a story out of documentary footage. I think it's a lot tougher. So I applaud you for going at it head first right away, and kind of like going where the story is. Having one interview and realizing, "Oh, this is what I need to spend all of my time on," and going head first.
Well, not only that, but once you're like kind of immersed in the subject matter, I found that like that's when the story comes into existence. It's when you're not shooting and you want to be shooting. I
Exactly.
found out that going into Legacy of Sideshow Studios here, just going into the facility and seeing all the different artworks and the people that are involved, the different kinds of music that goes through there. That's a whole thing that needs to be that documented. So as I'm doing the film just for this other thing, this kind of overtook it, and it's like, why not? This is there's something here. So I think when you find that and you tell yourself, hey, there's something here, that's when it becomes feasible to do.
Right.
Would you say, just as I mean, as a fellow filmmaker, and then learning how to get permissions and things that all comes into play, and where to get it distributed, where to get it, I don't know, pressed on physical media if that's what you want to do. There's
Right.
so many different facets. Making the poster art, like that's a whole thing in itself too.
There's so
So
many people that have to help you out. and come on board. And that's what I realized the most is like collaboration and like meeting fellow filmmakers and stuff like that, talking through it is immediately the next step to making the next thing much better, because you hear little quips from other people and you learn more just as you go. And it really is like the distribution. Like that's not something that you think about when you pick up a camera and you start shooting. You don't think how are people going to see this? And luckily we live in an age where we can put things on YouTube and we can get viewership that way. But how, if we want to go the old school route and get it into a theater, how do we do that? And so I like that, like Gardena Cinema kind of has that in mind, and they know that filmmakers deep down really do want people to see their movies in theaters still. Like that's still very much a part of filmmaking.
Well, not only that, but when you're like a one-man wrecking crew, like
Mhm.
myself, that does everything, the editing, the directing, producing,
Yeah.
writing, you're doing everything.
Mhm.
It's important to have a good grip on all facets of any kind of art form. I felt that way, either how to outsource to certain people, or you have to know what you're doing first before you can kind of ask others to help you,
Right.
because if you don't, then you don't know what you want, don't know how to do
Exactly.
it, how to achieve it. So I've actually found it to be like really therapeutic to be doing everything. I know other people could call me crazy for that, but I just enjoy every facet of filmmaking comparably to, being a musician or
Mhm.
whatnot. There's just a whole supportive community as well with filmmaking that I don't think a lot of industries have, especially on the independent level. I'm just strictly
Oh,
talking independent.
definitely. Definitely. Oh, completely. So I have one last question before we wrap up. Why should people come see the Legacy of Sideshow Studios in Gardena Cinema August 15th?
I think the why people should actually come to the theater, there's a couple reasons. The theater supports films such as The Legacy of Sideshow Studios, and the film also supports and documents a facility that a people built. It's not just like an empty building. Like this building has history. This building has a culture. And I think film is really missing culture today. I think with the whole, because people aren't good at telling stories anymore. Just and as I'm talking only like big levels here. And for me, I think the very foundation of having a good story, no matter what it is key to, again, the visual aspect. As long as you have good audio, then you're kind of in the clear here. But I think the Legacy of Sideshow Studios can relate to a lot of different people, especially if you're a musician. You know what it's like to practice, or you're on a sports team or whatever. You have to practice to play football or play whatever the sport is, and to get to that higher level. So having the foundation of a rehearsal space that people can go to and have the opportunity to better themselves in their art form. I think this film does that, showcases that well to people that may never have heard of Sideshow Studios, or just what it's like to be a musician. I think I tried to do that in the film, and I think it's resonated on that level. So if you're into music in general, or just wanting to, if you ever wanted to be a musician, would be the foundation, I think, that I would love to showcase for people. And for me, that's why I think people should definitely come out and support the film.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tanner, for being with me. Please
Thank,
go see Legacy of Sideshow Studios at Gardena Cinema August 15th. It's going to be a lot of fun.
thank you, Sophia, for having me. I really do appreciate everything.
Of course, Tanner. Can't wait to see you. We'll meet in person.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm
Officially.
looking forward to it. So,
The Movie Screeners Club is produced by Designing Hollywood Productions in association with Gardena Cinema. If you want to win the chance to have your short film screened in a huge cinema and the opportunity to be interviewed on our podcast, please submit your short film today to moviescreenersclub@gmail.com. This episode was sponsored by Smoke Break Productions, addictively entertaining.